Game on. Hello everyone, it's Josh Reedy Faulkner, and today we are going to be talking about all 4 fantastic movies from my least favorite to my favorite. Let me know down in the comments below how you would rank these, including the unreleased version that got put on YouTube for free. Let me know all your thoughts on these movies, all in all. But coming in last place for me is Fantastic from 2015. Just a story that sort of feels like it's trying to have its grasp and trying to have its own potential in making the darkest sort of Fantastic Four movie possible, but in the sense that everything is dark, the reality is dark, and not so much where they're going with the story. The origin is kind of weird, the acting feels off, and the chemistry is not quite there because of how poorly written the script is, and it doesn't feel like the relationship is there. And when Reed Richards leaves his team after having his powers, it feels really wrong, and things just feel out of place as the story develop, and things get weirder and weirder just with the way they develop and the appearances that don't throw me off too much from the story itself. But when the story itself isn't great, the appearances kind of do matter after all. Coming in number 3, we have Fantastic Four from 2005. Now, this one is just a personal preference that I just don't necessarily enjoy as much because of all the campy humor, the comic humor that's thrown in, and by its own means, it's sort of a masterpiece by what it's going for in making it sort of silly and using all the puns and relating it to Fantastic Four puns as much as possible. But overall, the humor does not land well for me. The script doesn't feel to land all too right, and the acting can be a little bit iffy at times. Chris Evans as the fire starter just doesn't feel quite as right, but all the other roles and everyone involved does feel to have a good potential within their own respective roles. That makes it at least one of the better formed teams that feels right for what they're going for, especially with a little bit of the growing technology in the 2000s that feels very early Marvel movies, but it feels like its own thing that's still enjoyable enough. Coming in number 2, we have Fantastic Four from 1994. And yes, while this is not certainly a great movie by its own means, overall, it took itself more seriously, and that's why I respected a lot more from this film over the 2005 film, where this film just has its outdated elements, its costumes, and the technology they had. But overall, while the CGI is not utilized because they didn't have that yet, it has its own grounds of being creative with as far as they can reach for being an outdated sort of source. And the actors themselves, while not the greatest chemistry between together, I could feel enough tension within the characters, the fight, that even the bad moments felt fun and at least bad enough that I could laugh at it and enjoy it, an enjoyment factor added to this film. That overall, the story itself wasn't the greatest. It sort of felt like a little bit of repeat. They adapted it in a way that still felt fresh and different according to when they were releasing and producing this film. But coming in at number 1, we have Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Now, this was quite a surprise for me, coming off of the other 4 movies that I actually watched this one last, and I highly enjoyed it as a refresher. The team from the original Fantastic Four that just comes together, and the chemistry works a lot better here. The characters are a lot more likable, and while there are some annoying fights here and there, it feels right for the characters that are involved. The hot-headedness of Chris Evans as the Human Torch, and just the relational dynamic between the team feels a lot more right, with the conflict involved with Reed Richards and Susan Storm getting married, and all the tension that's involved between those two having to get married and it getting disrupted so many times, and it feels like the right direction that they had for the story, while also being a really good standalone story with the return of Doctor Doom, but also the rise of Silver Surfer and how they utilize that character. And while we don't get enough of the big bad Galactus within this film itself, overall, what they provide for what they were going for with this film just feels right and makes this my number one Fantastic Four movie. So that's just my ranking. I'd love to hear your ranking down below because we all have different lists and we'd love to hear your different perspective on your bias. Thank you for watching. I hope you make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already.